As we continue to come on the year, more COVID cases are rising, and let's take a look at the state. 5.9 million cases, 47,000 plus 47,000, 76,000 deaths plus 28, 71,000 anyways counted. We're over 70,000 plus over 2,300. 1319 plus 5, it's over 1,300. How about our local schools? Let's check it out. What? 18 high school students, 3 high school staff, 8 junior high students, 10, 4, 2, 7 primary students. That's the total. That's 60 cases this month. You gotta start doing better. You're 40 cases up away for 100. December it's 3. You did good for December. But y'all gotta do better. You need to make sure that you guys need to make sure that you're freaking following steps from the not only from the Texas Education Agency, but from tips from yours truly. I mean, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I remember my family has gotten COVID. I'm not naming any names here, but I had to quarantine for 5 days. Yesterday was day 1, today is day 2. And now, it's all my fault for telling my boss, hey, my blank got COVID, and then I have to submit to a COVID test. And with a supply shortage, I was thinking about going to HP getting one, but sadly HEB was sold out. I thought about getting one at Walmart, but you know how much these things cost? Those things cost over like $40. Sometimes 20, sometimes over $40. But in the meantime, I gotta add in a tip also when I go through this. I mean, the numbers are rising pretty bad, and I'll tell you, I'm already vaccinated, so now I still don't know whether my member of family is okay. I still have to stay here for 5 days. That means I won't be able to get paid the right amount of money. Needs to happen here, so you gotta make sure that you're following all the steps, following all the tips. If you're vaccinated, if you got COVID, get the vaccine. It's very important you get the vaccine because it's gonna help fight against COVID. If you're diagnosed once partial, you still gotta follow the mandate. If you're fully vaccinated, then you have the option to wear the mask. But if your job still mandates you have to wear a mask, then you get to wear the mask. No excuses. Y'all can be like, what else can I do? Lots of things you can do. If you're diagnosed with COVID, go get the vaccine. If you know what type of vaccine you get, then I recommend getting the Pfizer vaccine. And now, coming up in 2 months, they're going to be announcing Omicron vaccine, which is going to be in March. By that time, we'll find out. We'll find out whether it will help.
I guess Sasha, you're 50 years old. Call the show.
Basically, what needs to happen here is that if we don't do something fast, we're going to end up going back to square one. If you or a member of your family you live with or a friend has COVID, let them know beforehand. It's a good thing to let them know because you could be infected. Even if you're vaccinated, there's still a chance you could get COVID. Just let them know. They tell you they get to stay home number for like 5 days, then you have to get at home testing. Let them know that you got a negative test. It's positive. You still have to stay home. I mean, I'm already quarantined. That's how it's going to be for me. So remember, you have to make sure that you gotta make sure you stay quarantined. If you're not quarantined and you don't follow the rules that at your work, then you're going to be fired. It's that simple. Social distance, masks, very important. Nose, not down here, no down here. Social distance, very important. Wash your hands, very good with soap and water. If you're riding in transportation, you still gotta wear a mask, no matter what. Flying a plane, same thing. Subway, same thing. If you have a medical condition, let them know and they'll help you out. If you're on the tube, no masks. And if you're in school, make sure you disinfect your desks. So we don't have this problem anymore. So let's try to be safe. And if your boss tells you to quarantine, then quarantine. We don't need any more of this. Let's be safe. As we approach the year ahead. Okay, let's take a break. Next, it was the first day back at school on Monday for the Oxford students. We're going to tell you what happened and what to expect for the new year. We're going to hear from students and what they're getting ready to do when we come back. It's been a month since the horrible massacre at Oxford, Michigan. Now, a slow return to Oxford High. What does that mean for other students? Here's a clip on Detroit Local 4.
The community of Oxford is not in a vacuum, and even people from neighboring communities know someone, or sadly knew someone, who went to Oxford High School.
I had a son graduate just last year, so his girlfriend worked with one of the young men that passed away, and it was tough.
What actual Oxford parents are telling me off camera is, for many of the high schoolers, even though they'll be returning on what's being called a slow return, many of these students are still anxious and still showing signs of trauma. Today, Oxford middle school students return to school, but on a hybrid schedule. For the next 2 weeks, middle schoolers will attend in-person classes Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, middle school students will be doing remote learning. Starting tomorrow, however, high school students will attend classes at the middle school, but only for half days. So that's Tuesdays and Thursdays for the next 2 weeks. The district's saying they want the next 2 weeks to be all about the students, getting them reacquainted with one another, easing them back into academics, and assessing ongoing trauma and mental health with mental health experts on site. There will be no remote learning in between those days, but the high school students will have an option for additional assignments that are aligned with their curriculums. To get students ready to return to the actual high school, the district will be holding 3 open houses January 20th, 21st, and 22nd between 6 and 8 to give parents and students a chance to walk the school facility for themselves. Again, trauma specialists will be on site.
Hopefully the schools are doing the right things and taking the right precautions, and people are probably going to be scared for a little while, which is normal, but I do think that if you can get back to your everyday activity and normal life as much as possible, obviously be aware, but there again, I just think the struggle is with the mental health.
Yeah, and that really is it. That's the fear, the anxiety of coming back. And we keep saying students, students, students. But let's say students, 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 teachers, 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 staff, staff, staff. It's really everybody. who needs to walk back into that building. We're starting to get some inklings of what's going on inside Oxford High School. As they prepare to bring students back, we'll have that part of the story coming up at 5 o'clock. Karen?
Students, teachers, staff, and really the parents too, like you said, Paula, because
Everybody.
sending your child back, you're going to be nervous those next few days just because it is an unknown territory. We appreciate the story and look forward to you later on tonight.
And let's look at that story right now. Take a look.
Starting tomorrow, Oxford High School students are going to begin the slow process of returning to school.
The first step to all of this involves the middle school. So how is this all going to work, and how's the community reacting? Let's get out to Paula Tutman, who's live in Oxford tonight. Good evening, Paula.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, there's a lot to navigate here. So the middle school students actually went back today. They're going to be going to school Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then they'll go to remote learning Tuesday and Thursday, and then the high school students will be using their facility for the next 2 weeks, when they're not in that school facility. Of course, this is still a community in pain after 4 students were murdered at their high school.
It was real stressful on everybody. The whole situation around here at Oxford. People didn't know what was going to happen next. People were scared, and definitely hurting and sad about the whole incident.
As the district prepares to bring back its high school students on what's called a slow return, Tuesday and Thursdays for the next 2 weeks, half days at the middle school to reacquaint with other students and learning. No remote learning, but extra assignments optional. Again, easing students back into a routine before returning to the actual high school, when students will be transitioned back the week of January 24th. The district also says it is doing renovations at the high school in preparation for that return. Parents who've seen some of the work say there are softer colors. The ceiling tiles have been replaced, and there's a warmer feel. But again, some parents I talked to off camera say the students are still feeling the trauma. Those who heard the gunshots, the ones who were the last to duck into a classroom safely, and those who held doors for their classmates who still didn't make it. And just the proximity of the murder of children has not been easy to erase in a mere 41 days.
I just think the whole community just needs to stay strong together through this whole situation. It's tough on everybody, even if you're not, if even you don't have kids at the school, just friends and family of people that are at the school. It's affecting everybody.
Yeah, it really does affect everybody. And what some parents were also telling me was it's affecting their elementary school kids because they know people who were in that school. So there really is a lot to navigate. Don't forget there are also teachers and staffers as well. One parent told me off camera, she said, you know what, she is going to send her student back to school, but if he wants to leave in an hour, he's free to do so. So again, they need to ease into this. Not going to be easy. 41 days absolutely doesn't erase the trauma, but this is a step in trying to get students back into the classroom and back into education, guys.
Yeah, all with new safety measures, which is just another reminder. Paula, thank you very much.
And there's probably more, and when that time comes, we'll figure out what the high school is going to do. So again, if you're an Oxford, you'll have to realize that there's a transition going on between remote and in person. Try to understand that we're trying to cope throughout what happened, and we'll find out what happens with the gunman and the parents. Again, the bond's denied, they're still in jail. They took their bank account. Took his bank account, drained it, whatever they did. They knew what they did was wrong. We'll know the truth for sure. We'll be right back. Ooh, I'm ready for this topic. As parents, we want what's best for our children, right? I mean, come on. But what are some ways to educate? Throughout this time, we've been doing remote learning, there's homeschool, but what about unschooling? It's a debate that goes on. It was even a Dr. Phil many years ago, and the debate is continuing. It's called radical parenting. They had said, well, I'll let my kid choose to go to school whenever he wants to, and parents are like, well, school is prison, this and that and the other. You want to see that episode? I'll provide a link in the description. This debate is still continues. And in a couple weeks, I may have to take the debate to our home game. We'll have that for you in a couple weeks. But I want to get to something I call vigilante justice. Is it right? Is it wrong? What does it mean by vigilante justice? It often describes actions by a single person or group of people who claim to enforce the law, but the lack of the legal authority to do so. The term can also describe a general state of disarray or lawlessness, in which competing groups of all people all claim to enforce the law in given areas. But is it legal? Vigilantes cannot legally justify it. Cannot be legally justified. An example of vigilante would be someone like wearing a mask, who takes the law in their own hands. If you want to see an episode of Dr. Phil, I'll find a link in the description. We'll have that for you in a couple weeks. But now something I saw on Inside Edition. Remember a while back I told you about that lady who threw a soup at the manager's face? She's part of all customers who... Well, she's now part of all these customers who are... She's now one of all these customers who are being the worst customers ever been. Here's what Inside Edition found.
These restaurant workers can tell you the customer is not always right. Like this Texas woman who was so mad about her soup being too hot that she threw it in the manager's face.
My eyes were stinging so bad, they were burning, and the spices were all like inside of the top part of my nose, and it caused me to have a nosebleed.
Janelle Broland was the manager on duty who had to deal with the disgruntled customer. She says she tried her best to make it up to her.
I, of course, offered her like refunds and was trying to get her either a replacement meal or just something completely different if she wasn't in the mood for soup anymore. And she just continued to yell.
But Broland says the woman didn't seem to want anything she had to offer her, and eventually got so fed up that she discarded the soup in Broland's face. Now the customer, 31-year-old Amanda Martinez, faces 1 count of assault causing bodily injury and could spend up to a year in jail if convicted.
Let's go.
This diner waitress was applauded for standing up to a rude customer and kicking him out the door. Sandra Albert says the man was a semi-regular customer at her New York diner. There have been issues before, but this night was worse than it had been in the past. After weeks of frustration, Albert said she had enough and told him to go find another place to eat.
He had to go one way or another.
Let's go.
A Georgia man got a hard lesson in keeping his hands to himself after groping a waitress at a pizzeria and getting taken down to the ground.
I honestly didn't even give it much thought. I did it. I didn't even know I could do that.
Amelia Holden says she surprised herself with her quick reaction. Surveillance video shows that just a second after the man made his move, she made hers, putting him on the floor and scolding him in front of the entire establishment.
A lot of things that I can't really repeat.
The man was arrested and eventually pleaded guilty to sexual battery.
I don't care who you are, you have no right to disrespect me.
These teens didn't order toxic fumes with their burgers, but they got a lot of it from some jokers.
We seen a group of people pull up. They were literally outside the entrance door. As soon as they opened the door, a bunch of smoke. They let out a bunch of coal.
It's a prank called rolling coal, where people bombard unsuspecting victims with thick plumes of exhaust. On this night, the victims were teens at a Whataburger in Texas after a high school football game. No injuries were reported, but it's a stunt that could make one lose their appetite. And this woman may have overreacted when she was denied the food she was craving. The NYPD says the possibly hangry woman took an aluminum baseball bat to the windows of a store when they ran out of Jamaican beef patties. It happened at a restaurant in the Bronx in 2019. According to the owner, after the customer was told that beef patties were sold out, she got upset and left. She shocked everyone when she returned with a bat and started wrecking the place. Police say she still hasn't been arrested, but hopefully she got something to eat. And we'll leave the batting to the Yankees. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Mara Montalbano.
Customer would always be right when they're sitting in jail saying, well, he did this, he did that. I did that on purpose. You can have a lot of time to think about that in jail. Throwing soup, smashing bats, grabbing asses. That's sexual harassment right there. Grabbing asses. There's no reason for that to be happening. Alright, just a week ago, there were 1,700 Miami teachers who called in sick in less than a day. What was the issue? Take a look.
Smile to
COVID, right now, more than 500,000 Americans are being diagnosed every day as the Omicron variant rages on. And that's leading to massive staff shortages in virtually every industry. It seems like all of us know someone with COVID right now, and Jim Murray reports that would include a number of well-known personalities.
The teachers.
The Today Show's Hoda Kotb joins the growing list of TV personalities hit with the virus.
Like many others, she tested positive for COVID.
Welcome back, Steve. It's so good to have you back.
Fox and Friends host Steve Doocy was back on the air today after a bout with COVID, and it sounds as if he's still recovering.
It pretty much went through our whole family. I got it. My wife got it.
Also his son, Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy, the well-known thorn in the side of the Biden administration. Add musician John Mayer to the long list. He just announced he has COVID and canceled all upcoming concerts. The Omicron surge is sparking a nationwide sick-out that's affecting every aspect of life in America. Hundreds of stores and restaurants have been forced to cut back on their hours or close altogether.
Restaurants are absolutely in panic mode right now because they don't have enough staff to even open their restaurants on time or serve people as they would like to.
Rachel Wyman owns a popular bakery in Montclair, New Jersey. She was forced to shut down when a quarter of her staff tested positive for COVID.
We just fought so hard for the last 2 years. We didn't close at all, and then this hits, and it's just crippling.
Schools are also struggling. In Miami, a staggering 1,700 teachers called in sick today. It was all hands on deck. Even the district superintendent filled in as a substitute science teacher. In Michigan, lunch ladies and school bus drivers are stepping in to supervise classes.
In New Jersey, they're offering retired teachers not just their retirement pay, but then they'll pay them a salary on top of that if they're willing to come and teach in the schools.
And this is a very big deal. If you can't do something about this, you're basically in the hole. And Omicron's the panic state right now. We have to wait till March to get that Omicron vaccine. I'm waiting for that vaccine right now, even though I got the Pfizer one. I don't know what's going to happen if I get the Omicron vaccine mixed in with the Pfizer. We know what's going to happen, but in March, we'll know what happens. Back in the moment with Bob Saget. Bob Saget, a legendary comedian, died. A legendary comedian that hosts America's Funniest Home Videos and played the character Danny Tanner in Full House. I love this guy. I loved him from all my art. I didn't even know he was... I was born like... during AFV's fifth or sixth season. During that time, he was still the host. He's in our hearts. We'll be with him always. It's all about decision. Give me a break Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again if you give me a break Tuesday. For all of us here at YouTube, have a good night.